this is not a comeback, this is what comes before.
What happens when the thing that makes you feel most yourself suddenly disappears? Well, from experience, I can tell you that it's certainly not easy, because what I love more than anything in the world is moving my body, whether it's running, going for a hike, or swaying my hips to my favorite song. So I know that when you're injured, it can easily feel like all your goals are so far out of reach, like everyone else is still running the race and you're forced to stand still. Even if you're trying your very best to stay positive and hopeful, it is so hard to keep putting that mask on when your head is full of grief, fear, and doubt. And it is okay not to be on the top of your game right now. I mean, how could you be, really, when your whole body is asking you to move, but the bravest thing you can do at the moment is to be still?
And you know, maybe this video is just for me, because I also still need to learn these lessons. But maybe it's also for someone else that needs to learn that healing is not a weakness.
Sometimes growth looks like walking away. And while that is also an important part of my journey, this video is not about walking at all. This video is about healing, not the flashy bounce back type though, but the slow, unsure part of it. It is meant to be positive and uplifting for sure, but not at the cost of sweeping the hard parts underneath the rug. Because I learned that it matters a lot to feel seen in your struggle too. I am not healed yet, but I am learning to get there mentally and physically. This was me just a few months ago. And this is me now. So feeling numb, stuck, or like I failed are a few feelings I had to deal with in the last couple of weeks. I tried so hard to be super positive all of the time. Because this is just who I am, right? Liv, the optimist, Liv, the strong woman that is not scared or faced by even the grimmest news concerning yet another foot surgery and recovery cycle. But I realized, you are allowed to grieve too, Liv. So here are a few mindsets that I'm also still learning to live by, but I'm slowly but surely internalizing that being strong does not mean that you can't struggle, and that this is not the end, but it could be a beginning. Because maybe I'm not breaking, maybe I am becoming.
This is not wasted time. Injury is a season and not a setback. Many people treat injury as a weight room between who they are and who they want to become. But this is not what recovery really looks like. This is. The way I see it, this season is actually an opportunity to explore sides of you that you never had time for before. New hobbies, old hobbies, creative projects, or connecting with people.
I know that it is tough, but you need to try and remember that you are not falling behind, but right now you have the chance to build a version of yourself that is stronger than before. So please focus on things that you can do instead of the things that you can't do right now. Lift, journal, read a new book, reflect, and grow. The way I see it, you might actually look back on this time when life gets busy again and be grateful for this quiet space. And remember, there is no such thing as wasted time when you are still becoming.
I am still an athlete. You don't stop being an athlete just because you can't currently actively train towards something. I think this deeply correlates to the misconception of what a lot of people think an athlete is, because I think in a lot of people's minds, an athlete is only someone that performs at a really high level. But in my opinion, an athlete is anyone that has a deep passion for their sport and actively makes decisions in their life to support this passion and train for that. So the way I see it, you still have that discipline, you still have that heart and that grit. None of it left, and you will get back to the point where you can train towards a certain goal. But I think it's also important sometimes to remember who you are outside of the sport. So maybe this time is actually excellent to explore other parts of yourself And remember that certain numbers or paces don't define your worth. Because yes, being an athlete is part of your identity, but it's not just who you are. You're so much more than that. And another thing it can do, of course, is it can make you appreciate what your body can do every single day even more. And also, maybe you will find that spark again, that love, because I think every athlete sometimes struggles with not feeling that intense passion every single day. But maybe this time will show you why you're doing this and why you love your sport so much. So maybe if you've done all of that work, you actually become a more balanced person and in turn maybe even a better athlete after your injury.
It is okay not to be okay. I think it was about a week ago when it caught up with me that I really wasn't doing so well mentally. Before that, I was always kind of acting or saying that I was fine. And maybe it was partially to not make people worry about me, and also partially, I think, because I was just suppressing my own emotions, because it's obviously hard feeling those emotions. But that didn't really work. So at some point, it just caught up with me, and then I really wasn't feeling well. And I'm already feeling better now, but I learned from that it's really important to feel your feelings and try to release them before it gets too much. I am a huge optimist, and I am still an advocate for the fact that a positive mindset is one of the most powerful healing tools. However, suppressed emotions and fake smiles is not a positive mindset. And having an injury is such a hard thing mentally as well. So it's super important, I think, to acknowledge that struggling is normal, and struggling does not mean weakness, but it means that you care deeply, and in a way that's actually beautiful. So if you can, try to release those emotions in any way, whether it's meditating or journaling as mindfulness tools that, for example, really helped me. I have noticed a huge difference with doing both of these things for my mental health. But it can really be anything at all. You don't always have to follow the wellness trends. Sometimes venting to a friend is all you need, and if that helps you, that's perfect. It doesn't have to follow any wellness trend rules or whatsoever. So yeah, just remind yourself that it's okay not to be okay every single day, but don't drown in your self-pity either. Just find a good balance, acknowledge that this is hard, try to be positive, but if you can't be positive, then, then it's fine as well. You just need to feel those feelings. I also want to talk about casual magic. That is not necessarily just a mindset connected to injury, but something that I'm always very passionate about. If you're not familiar with the concept, casual magic is basically this idea to find beauty in the ordinary things and choose to feel joy every single day instead of just these special days. It is a concept that I first heard of from Unjaded Jade. She has a podcast called Finding Your Casual Magic, and I love this podcast so much. I cannot recommend it enough. It is such a heartfelt project, and it opened my eyes to so many different topics, and especially to this concept of finding this joy that doesn't shout, but the joy that whispers, And this concept is also not meant to neglect the hard parts of your life, but rather to build a positive base that you fall on every single day. I think I'm naturally maybe more predispositioned to feel this joy and feel optimistic, but it is something you can train. In fact, I dare you right now to find anything at all that sparks joy in you. And here it doesn't matter at all if you're currently injured, if you were injured, or if you have nothing to do with injury whatsoever. Just find anything that you can see or feel right now that makes you happy. To give you some inspiration, because I know it can be hard starting off to see those little joyful moments, here are some things that were casually magic to me this week. One little ritual of mine that just never fails to make me smile is having my iced coffee, preferably outside in the sun. It's just such a joyful moment every day. Then I was actually recently told to start watching Friends, and I'm so happy that I followed the recommendation because it quickly became one of my comfort shows. Another thing that made me so happy recently is now that I'm a few weeks post-surgery, I can actually stand up and cook again. And everyone that knows me knows that cooking is my ultimate love language, so just practicing self-love in that way by having a home-cooked meal is super special to me, especially now that we have all these homegrown goods in the garden. It's just out of this world. I don't know what it is about summer rain, but something about sitting outside in the rain felt so incredibly cleansing and exactly like what I needed. And then lastly, and I'm so grateful for this, I have recently had some really good conversations and phone calls with friends, and it made me feel so seen, so heard, and it finally feels like I'm starting to create some of these deep connections that I've been craving for so long.
I can still grow. You know what they say about you never stop growing? I think that's true. And growth also doesn't stop for injury, it just slightly shifts directions. Just find new ways to exercise safely, for example. I, for one, since I have a foot injury, am focusing a lot on upper body and core strength so that I can come back stronger in these areas and can still grow athletically. It's also great to do some mental work because a true athlete is not just strong in the body but unbreakable in the mind. But of course, you can also grow outside of your sport. That's why I got really into editing now and learning about this skill, because it's something I always wanted to be able to do. And I've also been taking on some more creative projects lately. So, by all means, journal, read, cry, talk to people, develop new hobbies, refine skills, and deepen relationships. Do anything at all that gives you purpose, because having a purpose is so powerful. Let the future pull you forward. Dreaming is not denial, it's direction. Set yourself both long-term and short-term goals to keep that motivation, that drive alive. Not all of these goals have to be races or times, they can also be feelings. For example, some of the goals that I have is to have this runner high, this feeling of freedom out on a run again, or to be able to go on a hike without feeling any pain in my foot, or for example, which is more of a race goal, completing my first Ironman 70.3 in 2026. So yeah, just set yourself some goals and that can make a massive difference. And as I just mentioned, of course, some of these goals can also be races. And exactly for these goals, you can write yourself trainings plans. You can write yourself a recovery trainings plan, for example, with gym exercises that you're gonna do to build that strength back up until you, for example, in my case, can start running again. I, for example, will be able to swim and bike quite early on, but I think running will probably be put off until the end of the year. But because I also have short-term goals, that's not actually that bad for me because I have other things I can look forward to in recovery. One thing I want to add to that is that you please always need to give yourself enough time, because I know from experience that it usually takes a bit longer to build all that strength back up than you initially think. And another big thing that a lot of people underestimate is also the amount of trust it takes to be able to trust that injured body part again. I had it with my last foot surgery that it was so scary for me to do certain things, like running again for the first time, because I was just so afraid I would end up injured again. So you also have to take that into account. But if you've done your rehab work right and you're sure of it, it's so much easier to get back into the real training without that fear in your mind. However, I think you're still going to have that little voice in your head from time to time that will tell you that you can't do it. And that's why it's also super important to surround yourself with the right people that give you that little kick in the butt when you're doubting yourself. And here I would like to quote one of my biggest inspirations, Jasmine Sawyers.
What advice do you have for any athlete out there that's dealing with an injury or just struggling with niggles and stuff trying to make their way back?
Free yourself of the people who doubt you. Don't let anyone who doubts that you can actually make this comeback be in your ear.
You're not alone, even if you feel like it. From experience, I can say that injury can feel very isolating, and from time to time it might feel like there's no one out there that will understand you, no one that you can talk to. And
just know that there are so many people out there that walk the same path as you. And by the same path, I don't necessarily mean that they have the exact same injury as you, because there are so many unique injuries. I myself have a really weird, really unique injury, and I think that's why at times it felt like no one could understand me, because no one, literally no one I ever heard of has this exact injury, and it's been such a long process. But other athletes that have been injured still know what you're talking about and what you're going through emotionally as well as physically, because it doesn't really matter if it's the exact same injury. The psychological effect is most of the time the same or similar. So just try to open up to people and talk about how you feel. I am still working on opening up and talking about my feelings to other people, because like it's not easy. For some people it might come more naturally, but I don't think it's easy for anyone. But just try, and just, remember that you don't have to say how you feel perfectly, but just say something, because otherwise how would people ever know how you feel and how they can support you? You just have to start somewhere. And most of the time, once you start talking about it and opening up about it, more things come up and it will become easier to talk about it. And it is not only helpful for the person you're talking to, but also for yourself to process it. Another thing I would like to encourage you to do is to ask for help. And I know that is another thing that is not easy, but please try and do it. And also remember, if people offer you their help on their own account, no one forced them to do this, and they would not offer you their help if they would not genuinely want to support you. So there's absolutely no shame in accepting that help, or even asking for help yourself in the first place. Because, you don't have to shut people out just because you want to persist on your own independence, by all means. Because, you're still strong, you're still independent. And maybe some of that independence is gone for the moment because you're not as mobile. You will get back there. And we also don't always have to be hyper independent. It's fine to accept help and ask for help, because, that just makes us human. And maybe this sounds a bit strange to people that haven't been through this, but I've definitely been guilty of shutting out help just because I wanted to persist on my independence, and I always said, I can do it, and really the question was never really if I can do it, but if it was the best right now to be doing everything myself in my time of recovery. It's actually so powerful to let people love you in your vulnerable moments. This video, for example, is me turning my pain into connection, and that is one of the most powerful healing tools there is. So if you can, just try to turn your pain into a story and your story into connection, whether it is with other athletes online or with people that are already in your life. They don't even have to be athletes. Just, try and connect with people over this and be vulnerable and grow together. And instead of always saying, no, I can't come, we can't go anywhere because I'm injured, I can't do anything, just invite people over to you instead, and do something fun with them there and talk, and still create memories together, because that is something you can do. And the people that genuinely care about you, they will come over, they will want to spend time with you, they will want to be there for you. So that is actually how you see who is really there in the hard moments. And all of these things together can make you feel so much less alone, and that helps tremendously. To wrap it all up, I would like to give myself and anyone else that needs to hear this a final piece of advice. You need to trust your body to heal the same way that you trust it to carry out so many other amazing athletic goals. I stopped thinking, when will I be back exactly where I started, and instead started asking myself, what am I becoming? Where do I want to go? I feel like I'm at such a pivotal point in my life right now in general, because so many things are changing and evolving. I'm going to start uni, I am basically moving to another country, and effectively I'm also switching sports, since I'm going from purely doing athletics to now switching over to triathlon. And I am doing so much work at myself right now as well, because As I already said, sometimes goals don't have to look like races or numbers, but they can be feelings too. And honestly, one of my biggest goals is just to create a life for myself where I feel happy and to have people around me that make me feel seen and heard, and just, achieve the things that I always wanted to achieve so that I can be proud of who I am and what I can do. And I can slowly see so many puzzle pieces falling into place, and I just have to trust that the rest of the puzzle pieces will follow soon. And that just proves that although I have this injury, I can still evolve even now. So yes, I want to achieve extraordinary things, but I've also learned that simply staying on the path, even when it's hard, is extraordinary too. And I know that the hardest part of an injury is most of the time not the pain, but it's staying hopeful. So every time you manage that, that's a huge win. If no one told you today and you're healing too, from injury or anything else, I just want you to know I'm proud of you. For trying, for showing up, for holding on through the hard parts. I hope you see how well you're doing and how you're becoming too. Thank you so much for listening to my story. See you soon. Bye bye.